Today's watch has a bit of an identity crisis. Hi and welcome to Last Watch. If you're new to the channel, then please consider subscribing, like this video and hit the notifications button. I'd hate for you to miss out on any of my future content. Merkur, or is it Seizenn, have sent me another watch to look at, this being the third from the brand this year. Back in March, I looked at their Red Army Chinese watch, which may have been the inspiration behind the Seagull 1963. Then in June, I reviewed the forgotten Seiko, the 6105 8000 homage. I was quite taken with both watches. The 6105 homage is the better of the two and a pretty decent diver, which is sadly let down by a poor bracelet. I'm now wearing it quite regularly on a rubber waffle. Today's offering is advertised on the Merkur website as the rather long-winded Seizenn Automatic NH36 Mechanical Diving Watch 200 meters men's all stainless steel bracelet Swiss Luminous. You've got to love these Chinese-based watch websites. Dig a little deeper and you will find it also described as a Seizenn Turtle, a much catchier title. The Seizenn Turtle should not be confused with the Seiko Turtle. I have one of those. Here is my SRPC 91 Save the Ocean, and you can clearly see the STO has that distinctive turtle shape, whereas the Seizenn Turtle looks uncannily like the now defunct SKX. I'll start with the dimensions and investigate a little further. We have a case diameter of 42.3mm, a lug-to-lug of 45.8mm, a lug width of 22mm, and a case thickness of 13.2mm. Sized for my 7-inch wrist, minus 5 links of the Jubilee styled bracelet, it weighs in at 156.9 grams. Before I proceed, I need to point out that the Seizenn has been sent to me free of charge. I'm not being paid for this review, but I do get to keep the watch regardless of what I have to say. At first glance, the Seizenn Turtle could pass for an SKX. It's an all stainless steel construction with similar dimensions, case shape and finishing to the 009 and 007 variants. The lugs are noticeably narrower and the polished edges are straight compared to the curves of the Seiko. The transitions and contours between the brushed and polished surfaces are well defined and done reasonably well. There's an easy to grip, well proportioned screw down crown at the 345 position, secured between polished lugs. Unlike an affordable Seiko, the crown is engraved, albeit somewhat strangely, with a Merkur logo. There's what can be described as a bottle top, unidirectional rotating bezel, with a Yachtmaster style relief engraved stainless steel insert, boasting polished Arabics and indices on a sandblasted background. The sharply cut characters look great, but feel rough to the touch. I could file my nails with this bezel. Being a newbie to Yachtmaster bezels, I was kinda thrown by the lack of a loom pip. Turns out this is deliberate, to separate watches worn by divers from those worn by sailors who prefer to stay above the waves. The bezel action of the Seizenn is not great, but it is much improved from when I first took delivery. I'll explain that in greater detail when I discuss the bracelet later in the review. The crystal that sits on top of the Seizenn gives a very strong reading for sapphire glass. It's flat with a chamfered edge which adds some nice reflections around its perimeter. Below the crystal is a black retort which frames a green fume dial that graduates to black on its outer edge. An outer edge that has a white printed chapter ring. I guess this saves a few pennies in the production process, as a retort fitted chapter ring would come at an additional cost. There are some pros and cons with this approach. More detail on the dial can make the dial look a little more cramped, but the benefit of a printed chapter ring is that there's no misalignment issues. Within the chapter ring are the SKX style applied hour markers, polished silver frames with painted yellow bordering on chartreuse C3 loom. I did notice that the markers of the 6, 9 and 12 have shortened inward pointed stalks. I guess this frees up a bit of real estate on the dial. There is some white printed Seizenn text below the 12 o'clock marker, and 2 lines of white printed text above the 6 o'clock marker, denoting its 200 meters water resistance and automatic credentials. There is a basic cutout date window at the 3 o'clock position, which generally shows the day and date in white on a black background, the only exception to this being at the weekend when your Saturday is indicated in blue and Sunday in red. A bloody Sunday for you U2 fans out there. The day date display is a pointer to the movement that powers the Turtle. Interestingly, the Merkur website lists both the NH36 and 4R36 as being the calibre within. It makes no difference as they are effectively the same. The 4R36 is a Seiko only calibre, whereas the NH36 is the Seiko Instruments version that they sell to non-Seiko brands. The NH36 is an automatic that hacks and hand winds, has 24 joules, a power reserve of around 41 hours that beats at 21,600 beats an hour, or 6 ticks per second, and is rated for accuracy between -20 and +40 seconds per day. This particular movement is running at the higher end at +22 seconds per day. I would certainly consider adjusting this movement. The hands on the Turtle are polished Mercedes wannabes without the obligatory Mercedes logo, which allows for more loom on the hour hand. The second hand is a polished stick, with a loom-filled lollipop 3/4 along its length, and a rear counterbalance. It also adds a cap to the central spindle, which is a sweet touch that very few brands seem to offer. This is the second watch from Merkur to do so. You have to ask why other brands don't do the same. The handset are painted with the same C3 chartreuse coloured loom as the markers. I'll throw in a quite punchy loom shot here alongside my Dress KX for comparison. The Seiko is on the left, the Seizenn is on the right. The rear of the watch has a screw down case back. At its heart is an engraved turtle, confirming that this is indeed a Seizenn Turtle. Around the turtle we have some engraved text telling us that this is an automatic all stainless steel watch and a Seizenn Pro diver. I'm not entirely sure that they can lay claim to being a pro diver. It's third time lucky for Merkur, as the Jubilee style bracelet on the Turtle is by far superior to the bracelets on their previous watches. It's by no means perfect, but a definite upgrade compared to the Red Army or the 6105 8000 Homage. It's an all stainless steel, solid multi-link affair with a contrasting finish, a polished central spine protected by brushed outer links. The links have pushpins, which makes them fairly easy to resize. The bracelet starts at 22mm at the lugs and tapers to 18mm at the brush pressed metal clasp, which has 3 holes of micro adjustment. There's a fold over safety catch, strangely yet again branded with the Merkur name, that gives way to a double push button release and a mill deployant clasp. The male end links add a little bit of length to the case but don't affect its wearability. They are solid but don't come trouble free. All of the Merkur watches come in a very attractive Kevlar style Merkur branded travel pouch and generally come wrapped in a tight fitting plastic sheath for their protection, which can be a bit of a bugger to remove. It was whilst I was removing this plastic that one of the end links of the watch appeared to come away from the lugs. It may well have been shipped in that condition and been held in place by the plastic until I unwrapped it. Getting the end link back in place was no easy matter. The supplied spring bar tool was of little use. Luckily, I have a collection of my own that seemed to do the trick. After reattaching the end link, I was left with a seized bezel that point blank refused to turn. The end links seem to sit quite high under the bezel and don't allow for a flowing movement. Even now, after a lot of play and some adjustment, turning the bezel can be somewhat difficult. The Seizenn is a mixed bag. A turtle that looks like an SKX mod of a Yachtmaster. It doesn't help that Merkur have also blurred the lines a little. I understand that Merkur are a parent company that sells other brands, but it's somewhat confusing that the turtle has Seizenn on the dial, but Merkur on the crown and the bracelet. Now I know a lot of you would quite happily pay big bucks to have a vintage Tudor with a Rolex crown. But imagine buying a modern day Omega or Longines and finding it came branded as a Swatch. Merkur really need to rethink their branding. The Turtle's accuracy could be better, as could the bezel action, which I think would be greatly improved by sorting out those high-fitting end links. On the plus side, in a world where the now defunct SKX line are selling at a premium, the Seizenn could be an attractive, affordable alternative, especially to the army of watch modders out there looking for a head start on their next project, as the Seizenn benefits from an upgraded movement and a sapphire crystal, which leaves the Edge and SKX somewhat lacking. If you ignore the dodgy end links, Merkur have done a reasonable job with the bracelet. I might even be tempted to mod this one myself. The Seizenn Turtle is currently on offer at a little over £97, $134 or €113, but you will have to pay upwards of £10, $15 or €12 in shipping. It comes with a 30-day returns policy and a 2-year guarantee. If, like me, you're not a fan of the green fume dial, then you may be tempted by the black variant, a much safer option. I'll add a link in the video description to the Merkur website. Feel free to share your thoughts on the the Seizenn Turtle. Is it a worthy stand-in for the SKX, or will you be sticking to Seiko for your future mods? I'll look forward to reading your comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.